What's up, guys? It's Rob here, and today we need to talk about Sundial stock because Sundial has a very important delisting date coming up. People are really worried that Sundial is going to be delisted. There are talks about whether they're going to get delisted, whether they're going to do a reverse split, whether or not the price can rise to above $1 soon enough to stop that from happening. Maybe they'll get an extension. There's a lot of stuff that we need to talk about, and I'm going to explain what options Sundial has and what my thoughts are on the whole thing, as well as what some other people are talking about regarding Sundial. So let's start off just taking a look and taking note of the fact that Sundial has been pushed down in a massive way over the past year, right? And for those of you who are unaware, basically the reason we're making this whole video is to explain the delisting process for Sundial, right? Because Sundial has not been above $1 for a very long time. In fact, it's not been above $1 for almost 180 days. And when a stock falls below $1 that's listed on the NASDAQ, it has 180 days to get back above $1 for 10 days in a row to avoid a delisting. So Sundial is at risk of being delisted. That's what a lot of people have been saying lately. And we've actually gotten a couple of articles written about it. And these articles are actually advocating, a couple of different things, right? This one, written by Wall Street Memes, is advocating for meme miracle, right? They want Sundial to shoot up in price, get above $1 from a meme miracle at some point in the next couple of days, right? Because February 7th is the day that Sundial will be getting delisted if they do not have something go right for them, right? They either need a meme miracle, as this article is advocating. This article was a little bit negative, right? It said that a reverse stock split could be bringing Sundial back into compliance. And we'll talk about the possibility of that. It's not my favorite option, right? I think I'd rather people be able to hold on to their share counts, but it is a distinct possibility. Sundial could decide to do a reverse stock split, and there would be some pros and cons to that. But I think that what most people are hoping for, right? What most people are hoping for, if you actually look at the NASDAQ delisting rules, most people are hoping that they will get an additional grace period. So first off, when a company is trading below $1, they receive a return to compliance letter, right? A deficiency notice, and they have 180 calendar days to return to compliance. And that means closing above $1 or more for 10 consecutive trading days. And that's going to be tough for Sundial to do, looking at the current economic environment, where the stock market's been the past while, and where Sundial's trading at below 50 cents. They'd have to more than double and then maintain that price for 10 consecutive days. It would be tough to do, right? They really would need, as this article said, a meme miracle. So we'll see. Maybe that'll happen, right? That seems like a fairly unlikely situation over the next couple of days that they're going to do that. But a real distinct possibility is this additional grace period, okay? If a company with a minimum market value of 1 million in shares held by non-affiliates satisfies the other listing requirements, and I believe Sundial does, it may receive a second cure period of 180 calendar days. And the important part is that to receive this, the company must notify the NASDAQ of its intent to correct the deficiency. Then the NASDAQ may exercise its discretion in determining whether it believes the company or not. So I think that Sundial has a pretty good case it can make to the NASDAQ that they can correct this deficiency. Now, they have been trading at much higher valuations in the past. They've got a pretty good balance sheet. As of right now, they have the Alcana acquisition going through fairly soon. And what they can point to is actually that the overall markets have been incredibly bearish over the past year. I mean, we'll take a look at other cannabis stocks like Tilray, Canopy Growth, Organigram. I mean, the charts are all the same, right? It's not a Sundial problem that Sundial moved down, right? It's basically a ton of growth stocks moved down in a massive way over the past year. And it's not just cannabis stocks. It's actually some of the top stocks in the world, right? If you look at Cathie Wood's ARK Invest, her innovation ETF, it is down massively from the beginning of the year when Sundial was peaking to where it's at now. So if you actually look from the highs to the lows, it's down about 59%. And this is Cathie Wood we're talking about, right? These are not these low-tier companies, right? These are high-class growth stocks. You can look at ARK Holdings, right? It includes Tesla, Zoom, Teladoc, Roku, Coinbase, Unity Software, Twilio, Spotify. We've got Block, which was formerly known as Square. We've got Shopify, DraftKings, Twitter. The list goes on and on. Robinhood even, right? Robinhood's been seeing a lot of pain too. So it's not just Sundial that's been feeling this incredible market pain over the past year. And I think that they could bring that up to the NASDAQ if they needed to, in this letter where they're trying to convince the NASDAQ to let them remain listed for another 180 days to give them this cure period. I think they have a pretty good case that they can make that they are a pretty solid company at the moment and that the overall markets are really just pushing them down, right? That they're just suffering because the markets are suffering overall. So I think they have a fairly good case they could make. Now, whether or not they'll actually get this grace period right, that is up to the NASDAQ, because the NASDAQ may exercise their own discretion in determining whether or not they believe the company. So we have to think about what could happen if they don't actually get this grace period, right? It's something that you have to at least have in the back of your mind. You have to consider the options that Sundial has other than that. So potentially, right, this other article was talking about a reverse stock split. And they actually took an interesting approach. They said that they thought that Sundial, instead of just doing a 2 or 3 for 1, would do a 10 for 1. Now, that seems a little bit unlikely, but there are potential benefits, right? Sundial has a very high number of shares outstanding, and doing a reverse split would help to consolidate some of that. And that could be a benefit, but I think that most investors in this stock would be a little bit disappointed to see Sundial actually doing a reverse split, because typically it's not the best. Typically, you actually want to be going the other way and just doing a stock split, right? You want the stock's price to be rising so much that you just do a stock split and you actually get 2 shares instead of 1, and then they can continue rising. And you really don't want to see a company contracting in that way, right? You don't want to see them combining shares to push the price up, because that overall shows that the company isn't either too confident in themselves, or sometimes you are in a situation like this where you just have to do it to maintain compliance. And it's a real distinct possibility that Sundial has. I don't think a lot of investors are happy for it, though, right? Everyone would rather have very high share counts of this thing. And if they did decide to do a really big reverse split, like a 10 for 1, like that article was talking about, which I don't think they would do. I mean, maybe they will, but I don't think they would. It would kind of dissuade some investors, some of the more meme-driven investors, right? Because typically you see a stock like Sundial trading at 46 cents, and it looks like the kind of thing that could explode. If you see this thing trading at $4.60, it's a little bit less appealing, right? You can buy far fewer shares. People like being able to buy 100 shares for 46 bucks. And if it was trading at 460, then you'd have to pay 460 bucks to do it. So I think that they might not decide to do a big reverse split like that. I think if they were going to do a reverse split, it would probably be a 3 or maybe a 4 for 1, just to get them above dollar per share for long enough so that they can maintain compliance, if it comes to that, right? And there's obviously the situation in which they actually don't do any of these things, right? Maybe the price doesn't go up. Maybe they don't get the grace period. Maybe they decide not to do a reverse split. Well, what would happen in that situation is if they fail to comply with the listing requirements, then they get a delisting letter, and they have to disclose that to the public within 4 business days. So as soon as February 11th, or I believe February 11th, we could be hearing about that. Probably not, though. I think this is one of the least likely situations, but we'll discuss it, right? The situation in which they actually get a delisting letter. They can then appeal that, right? They can appeal the delisting letter to the hearings panel. And once they start that process, that just lasts until the hearings panel actually makes the decision. So it's an unspecified amount of time that they would remain listed for, right? While they're deciding whether or not to actually delist Sundial. And in this appeals process, Sundial could make a case that they have, good financial strength, that the general markets have been tough, and that historically these cannabis stocks have been getting pushed down. But whenever there's talks about legalization, they certainly soar up, and we are certainly starting to see a lot more talks about legalization. A lot of states potentially legalizing it this year, potentially federal legalization as well, now that Amazon is backing that. So we'll see what happens. I don't find it very likely that they would go to the hearings panel, right? I don't think that they'll actually let themselves get to the point where they're getting this delisting letter. It's much more likely that we'll see one of the 3 other situations, right? Either this thing, maybe over the next couple of days, I would like to see this the most. I would love to see it skyrocket in price. That would be incredible. If this thing could just naturally get over $1, that would be ideal. It doesn't seem super likely at the moment with the way the markets are looking. We are actually seeing some green in the markets today, so maybe the beginning of February will be incredible for stocks. That's a possibility. It doesn't seem the most likely, but maybe we'll see an incredible explosion in Sundial price. Maybe it gets above $1, right? That's a real possibility. Potentially, they'll get that additional grace period. That is my biggest hope right now. I'm really hoping that they'll get the additional grace period of 180 days, and then they can take their sweet time, climb above $1, slowly but steadily. And potentially, if that doesn't happen, then they might do a reverse split. Because I think the last thing that management wants is for Sundial to actually get delisted and get taken off the NASDAQ, because that removes any future possibility of a meme miracle in the future, right? That removes a lot of the pump potential from Sundial, and I do not think management wants that, because this pump that Sundial had was actually one of the best things that ever happened to their company. They were able to raise a ton of capital from it, and it basically saved Sundial. So I think that management wants to avoid a delisting at all costs, but obviously keep in mind, there is the possibility, right? It's not impossible. Nothing's impossible in the stock market, but it does not seem very likely that management would let that happen, right? Despite Sundial moving down in price for the past while, I think that they've got to have some kind of plan, right? They're either planning on getting that grace period, they're planning on a reverse split, or they've got some kind of plan to initiate a big buyback and potentially drive up a lot of hype for Sundial. That would have to happen pretty darn soon, though. So we'll see what happens with Sundial over the next couple of days. But now, hopefully, you guys understand a little bit about the delisting risk, and hopefully, you aren't too fearful of it, right? Obviously, when people are very fearful of stocks, they tend to sell. And that's up to you guys, right? This is not financial advice. I'm not recommending anyone buy or sell any shares. I'm just letting you guys know what the news is for Sundial. And I will let you know I am holding my shares, right? I am still holding my Sundial shares, and I may be buying more in the next couple of days. We'll see if the price gets a little bit cheaper, then I might buy some more. Because I overall am not too worried about the delisting. I think that in the long term, Sundial is going to do pretty darn good once we start to get some more legalization catalysts coming through for it. So other than that, guys, that's just my opinion. But feel free, real quick, to subscribe to the channel if you wish, right? We've got about 10,000 subscribers at the moment. We're trying to avoid our channel getting delisted from YouTube by getting up to 11K by the end of February. So if you want to subscribe, feel free to do that. It would be much appreciated. And other than that, guys, have a great day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.